Last night, 60 Minutes released an interview with President Joe Biden. There were many instances where, when asked, Joe Biden rambled incoherently. Notably, when asked about his age and mental focus, it's hard to understand exactly what Joe Biden was trying to say, but we get the gist of it. He was incoherently rambling that he was all with it, sure. But of the things he did say, nothing was more clear and coherent than the U.S. policy to defend Taiwan in the instance that China invades the island. Joe Biden was asked and then asked again to clarify, and Biden said, yes, we made a commitment to defend the island, though we did not set a policy on whether or not they should be independent. If they get invaded, the U.S. military will defend the island, as noted by 60 Minutes. Immediately afterwards, the White House walked this back, saying there is no policy change here whatsoever. Now, the reason why I say the White House has gone rogue, I thought about this long and hard. This is the fourth time Joe Biden, as the commander in chief, even noted by CNN, he is the commander in chief. This is the fourth time he has said it is our commitment and policy to defend Taiwan. 4 times. And I got them for you. The White House still publicly rejects the statements from our commander in chief. And this is not the only time this has happened. As many of you know, they've done it over and over again. Now, of course, with many presidents, the White House has walked back statements, especially with Donald Trump. But we can look at many matters of consequence in foreign policy sparking fears of World War III when the president of our country, the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, has made explicit and coherent statements about what our policies and desires are, and the White House comes out seemingly unprompted and says no. Who is the White House? That's the question I have. Perhaps the chief of staff? Not entirely sure. With Donald Trump, it was often the chief of staff. I believe it was Mark Meadows, an individual saying, well, we got to clarify what Trump said. Many of these circumstances were Trump offering up potentials and things we might do. And again, yes, the White House, as the executive branch with an administration and many staffers and employees, will collectively say our official policy is this. My question is, on matters of such profound importance that Biden has explicitly stated 4 times, who is rejecting the policies of our commander-in-chief as it pertains to the detachment, to the deployment of our armed forces in the event of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan? Certainly at this point, the White House would just be saying it is the opinion of Joe Biden. It is the commitment made by the U.S. that we will defend this island. Now, it's possible Joe Biden is just lying over and over again, or he doesn't know. I reject that notion. Now, I can certainly entertain the notion that Joe Biden's brain ain't all with it, but 4 times, especially here, he says, we have made this commitment and we will do it. Pelley asks him again to clarify, and Biden says, yes. I'll play for you the clip. Who in the White House is denying the military plans, commitments, and policies of our commander-in-chief? Now, let's go back to the Trump era. And I'll say, I think it's fair to say that the executive branch is rogue at this point. Perhaps a bit hyperbolic. I will accept that, perhaps. When Donald Trump said he wanted out of Afghanistan, what did they do? They lied to him. When he said he wanted our troops out of Syria, what had happened? They lied to him. You don't have the authority, they said. So who does? Unnamed bureaucrats denying Biden, denying Trump? Something is not right. But let's take a look at this. We'll take a look at some of Trump's statements. And then I want to show you a rather curious piece where Joe Biden rants incoherently about whether or not he's too old and has mental focus. And maybe that's why they've come out in front of this. Maybe the reason the White House is denying what he's saying is because they recognize his brain doesn't work. But that doesn't change the fact that he is the commander in chief. So who are they to supplant him? In which case, even if his brain don't work, and you can argue it's a good reason to reject his policy plans. No, that's going rogue. And we saw it under Trump as well, and this is a problem for us. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member. If you'd like to support our work as a member, you will get access to exclusive segments from the Timcast IRL podcast, uncensored after show, as well as our other shows, such as Cast Castle and Tales from the Inverted World. Check those out. We got more work coming, more shows, new stuff. It's going to be really great. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's read the news. You've heard me opine quite a bit. Let's see what they have to say over at CBS. Biden tells 60 Minutes U.S. troops would defend Taiwan. But White House says this is not official U.S. policy. How is that possible when Biden outright said this is our commitment? Last Thursday, the same day 60 Minutes spoke to President Joe Biden, Vladimir Putin met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. There's concerns that Russia's war in Ukraine could inspire China to attack the island of Taiwan. U.S. policy since 1979 has been to recognize Taiwan as part of China, but to remain silent on whether the U.S. military would defend the democratic government there. 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley asked Mr. Biden about that. Quote, what should Chinese President Xi know about your commitment to Taiwan? Quote, we agree with what we signed onto a long time ago, and that there's one China policy. And Taiwan makes their own judgments about their independence. We're not moving. We're not encouraging their being independent. We're not. That's their decision. Quote from Pelley. But would U.S. forces defend the island? Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack. Quote. So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion. Yes, the president said. After the interview, a White House official said U.S. policy on Taiwan has not changed. Officially, the U.S. maintains strategic ambiguity on whether American forces would defend Taiwan, but the Taiwan Relations Act obligates the U.S. to help equip Taiwan to defend itself. Let me play this for you, okay? Let me show you that again. The Taiwan Relations Act obligates the U.S. to help equip Taiwan. You see, they're playing word games. Let me play for you this soundbite. It's only about 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
A long time ago. And that there's one China policy, that Taiwan makes their own judgments about their independence. We are not moving, we're not encouraging their being independent. That's their decision.
But would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
After our interview, a White House official told us U.S. policy has not changed. Officially, the U.S. will not say whether American forces would defend Taiwan. But the commander-in-chief had a view of his own.
So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Yes.
Yes, plain and simple. So here's my question. If the president doesn't set the policy, who does? For them to intervene after Biden stated very clearly 4 times now to say that they have not changed our policy, then who is Biden? I don't understand. Now, I don't want to act like this is the apocalyptic end of the world. What we have here is disparate communications, I suppose. But it's not the only time. We've also seen the White House amend transcripts to change what Joe Biden said. I got to be honest. I think Biden, for the most part, is cut out. They cut Trump out. Why would they do anything different for Joe Biden? They're going to say, quote, let me read this line before the quote. That's what happened earlier this month when the State Department announced a $1.1 billion sale of military equipment to the island democracy. What they're basically saying is Biden said it doesn't matter. Our policy hasn't changed. We'll equip them to defend itself. They will equip. What? To defend itself? This package was in the works for some time precisely because we expected it would be needed as China increased its pressure on Taiwan, yada, yada, yada. Chinese embassy spokesperson Liu Pengyu said the deal sends wrong signals. Okay. We get it. Let's roll, baby. May 23rd, 2022. Biden says U.S. would militarily intervene to defend Taiwan. White House rushes to walk it back. So let's grab the walk back. CNN's John Berman noted during Monday's episode of New Day that the U.S. generally has a policy of strategic ambiguity. Quote, the comments this morning seem a little less ambiguous, Berman said. As to whether they were strategic, CNN has learned the president's comments caught his top aides off guard. They were already issuing some clarifications this morning. Clarifications, huh? The network's White House reporter Kevin Liptak obtained a comment from the administration appearing to brush aside his remarks about military involvement, saying, as the president said, our policy has not changed. He reiterated our one China policy and our commitment to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. He also reiterated our commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to provide Taiwan with military means to defend itself. Saying the means is to defend itself is an outright rejection of Biden now saying at this point, as I'm walking you through twice, that we will defend it. Okay, so what was this? This was at a Japanese press conference, I believe, in Tokyo, at a news conference. Let's roll, baby. October 22nd, 2021. White House walks back comments Joe Biden made during CNN town hall. He says, or the article says, the White House was forced into damage control mode Friday with spokespeople trying to clarify comments Biden made in a live CNN town hall, including a commitment to defend Taiwan from a possible attack by China. While answering audience questions during Thursday night's event, Biden was pressed on how the U.S. will match China's military following reports of hypersonic missile testing. China, Russia, and the rest of the world knows we have the most powerful military in the history of the world. Don't worry about whether we're going to. They're going to be more powerful. What you do have to worry about is whether or not they're going to engage in activities that will put them in a position where they may make a serious mistake. After stating that he did not want a Cold War with China, he said, I just want to make China understand that we are not going to step back. We are not going to change any of our views. Quote, so are you saying the U.S. would come to Taiwan's defense if China's attacked? Yes, Biden answered. Yes, we have a commitment to do that. Okay. The White House may be lying. Simply put, sure. Let's roll, baby. From The Diplomat, August 24th, 2021. Did Biden's Taiwan remarks represent a U.S. policy change? I don't even need to. You get the point. Yes, it does. Who sets the policy? I ask you this, the commander in chief or his staff? Listen, if Biden comes out 4 times saying this is what we will do, then why is the White House coming out and saying, no, we will not? We'll help them defend themselves. We won't. Because the White House clearly does not care what Joe Biden's intent is. And you know what? So this is why I say they've gone rogue. You could argue that we have official policy, that Biden goes in, sits down and says, okay, let's enact policy. What is our plan? And the staff then writes it down and decides. But he's the commander in chief. The executive branch has an executive. The commander in chief says, here's what we do. Here's our policy set by him. If he said it 4 times, at what point do we acknowledge that the White House denying clear and concise statements from the president represents them going rogue and defying the duly elected leader? Okay. I suppose it would have to be in the instance that China does attack. Biden then says, I'm hereby ordering, and then they ignore it. Okay, let's go back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump tried to get our troops out of Syria. They lied to him, told us we didn't have that many troops there and we wouldn't pull them out. I believe it was something like they claimed there were only 200 troops there, when in reality there were several thousand, because Trump wanted them out. Yeah, that sounds like the White House going rogue and persisting in their policies with the next president. Something is broken here. So maybe where I'm wrong is to say they've gone rogue. Maybe what I should say is they went rogue a while back. Take a look at this from The Hill. Biden's Putin remark. White House walks back, faces scrutiny. Their walk back faces scrutiny. Yeah. Biden said, for God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. They walked it back saying, we meant with, his invasions and in other places. Hey, there's more. White House rushes to walk back Biden's admission of no federal solution to COVID-19. Could it be that the reality is that Joe Biden is just spitting and yelling, accidentally admitting the truth? When he says we have a commitment to defend Taiwan, could it be that we do, and they're just trying to cover up because Biden is just spilling the beans? Perhaps. Here's another one. Biden calls for regime change in Russia, which is from the other story. Then White House claims he didn't mean what he said again. Okay, so that's basically the same story as from the other one. So I think I just mixed up the order here. That's March 26th. That's right. Here we go. White House corrects Biden. Quote, we are not sending U.S. troops to Ukraine. Okay. Well, there it is. Biden is not in control. And this matters. from timcast.com. And of course, to all our haters, NewsGuard certified 82 out of 100. This is true news, true facts. Biden said, quote, to the 82nd Airborne, you're going to see when you're there. You're going to see women, young people standing in the middle in front of a damn tank saying, I'm not leaving. You're going to see when you're there? The White House then clarified. They claim now that U.S. troops are not in Ukraine. Maybe they're lying. Maybe U.S. troops are. Maybe Joe Biden was just speaking nonsense. This, not policy. Joe Biden stating clearly 4 times that it is our commitment and policy to defend with our military Taiwan is very different from him telling some, servicemen and women mistakenly they're going to Ukraine because they were going to Poland. Okay, that I can acknowledge. I can also acknowledge that there's been several instances where they've walked Trump back. But maybe this is just Biden is saying stuff that makes no sense. But look at all this. Same story. Biden tells U.S. troops they'll be in Ukrainian war gaffe. They call it a gaffe. Psaki walks back Biden's comment that it's a personal decision if people want to wear masks on planes. I'd also like to point out that Joe Biden stated the pandemic was over. Still mandates in place. There's still an emergency order in place. There's still vaccine mandates from our armed forces. At what point do we just recognize that Joe Biden is not in control, period? That's it. Here we go from Breitbart. White House struggles to walk back Joe Biden condemnation of MAGA Americans. I think when you break it down, you can see that there's an attempt at a reasoning as to why they're speaking on behalf of Joe Biden. Because his brain is broken, ladies and gentlemen. From factcheck.org. Oh, I love this one. Quick take. President Joe Biden quoted the Supreme Court majority opinion on ending the constitutional right to abortion in remarks he made on July 8th. Social media posts falsely claim he mistakenly read teleprompter cues. A White House press secretary told us Biden intentionally said, end of quote, and then said, repeat the line for emphasis. And the full live remarks support that explanation. The full live remarks support that explanation. Okay. Here's the transcript. They say, here's the White House transcript. He says, he reads the quote, blah, 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 blah. Cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of men who do so. End of quote. Let me repeat the line. Women are not without electoral. Okay. They're going to say, in the video remarks, it's not clear that Biden says, let me, before saying repeat the line. But posts on social media shared a shortened clip of the part of Biden's remarks to falsely claim that he mistakenly read cues of the teleprompter. Sure, let me play it for you. Let me just play it for you.
It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line. Women are...
He did not say repeat the line.
Men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
Emily Simmons, White House Assistant Press Secretary, says, no, he said, let me repeat that line. No, he didn't. They made that up. He said, repeat the line.
The percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
Repeat the line. He didn't say that line. Even if you want to argue that the let me wasn't there, he said, repeat the line, not let me repeat that line. And then in the transcript, it says, let me repeat the line. They're lying. They are lying because Biden's brain is broken. Here's what I think the truth is. I think we do have a commitment to defend Taiwan. I think Joe Biden is correct when he says it, but he's too stupid, or I should say his brain ain't all there. So he's blurting it out over and over and over again, which he's not supposed to do. And because the U.S. does have a policy not to say anything, what are they supposed to say? The president said it. All they can do is reject it. The Washington Post makes it clear. This is not unique to Trump. I do want to show you there are several instances where they walked back Trump and edited transcripts. ABC News says White House tries to walk back Trump attacks on Pentagon chiefs as beholden to arms dealers. This is more of an insult and an off-the-cuff statement that they're trying to pull back. That I get. Trump also said in an off-the-cuff statement, we'd have to wipe out $75 billion, I think it was billion, in debt to Puerto Rico, causing chaos in the markets. He didn't say we have a policy to do so. He said, we'd have to. It's an opinion, not the same as foreign policy of what we are going to do with our commitments. Granted, they've also walked back opinions of Joe Biden. I don't want to make it sound like it's unique to Biden. In fact, I want Trump very much to be included in this. The White House, even with Trump's people, they have consistently denied and rejected the position of our president. Maybe it's a good thing. maybe not. But the White House the Washington Post points out, the White House keeps walking back Biden's remarks. May 24th. Some argue the president would be better served if his advisors let his off-the-cuff comments stand rather than suggesting he was mistaken. Over and over again. It is to the point where even the Washington Post could not deny it. Yes, they've walked back other presidents, but something about Joe Biden is just completely different. So, if the president's brain is broken, so be it. We cannot have a system in place where people can unilaterally decide to supplant the president without invoking the 25th Amendment. We have a policy for this. Kamala Harris would need to invoke the 25th if they thought Biden was incapable of being president, instead of just denying what he's literally telling the world. And if it's true that Biden is revealing secret policy positions, so much so the White House must intervene in defiance of our own commander in chief, then we have a serious security breach with the broken brain of our president. However you want to cut it, the system is completely broken. Something must be done. Please, 25th Amendment, this guy. Oh, don't take my word for it. Let me just show you this. In a tweet from Benny Johnson, he pulled the clip. We're going to play it. Let's play it. Let's play this clip.
Mr. President, you are the oldest president ever.
Pretty good shape, huh?
Which leads to my next question. You are more aware of this than anyone. Some people ask whether you are fit for the job. And when you hear that, I wonder what you think.
Watch me. I mean, honest to God, that's all I think. Watch me. If you think I don't have the energy level or the mental acuity, then that's one thing.
I'll pause right there. He says, watch me. We've been watching you, sir. That's why we are saying you don't have the mental acuity for the job. Specifically, that you're either exposing secret U.S. policies that are helping one of our greatest adversaries, or your White House has gone rogue, I suppose. Or you're intentionally revealing this, or your brain is so broken you don't realize you're doing it. Pick one, I guess.
It's another thing of just watch and keep my schedule, do what I'm doing. I think that.
Wait, what? He says that's what I say. Keep my schedule and do what I'm doing. How would someone looking at your schedule and then do what you're doing signify that you have the ability? If I did what you did, is that to imply there's more?
I don't. When I sit down with our NATO allies and keep them together, I don't have them saying, "Wait a minute, how old are you? What did they say?" I mean. It's a matter of, that old expression, the proof of the pudding's in the eating. I mean, I respect the fact that people would say, you're old. But I think it relates to how much energy you have and.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Okay, sir, carry on. Whether
or not the job you're doing is one consistent with what any person of any age would be able to do.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even saying to myself my own head the number of years.
What? Okay.
I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly. I mean, it's just not, I haven't observed anything in terms of, there's not things I don't do now that I did before, whether it's physical or mental or anything.
I just got to play that for you again. Okay, I just got to play that one more time.
Even saying to myself my own head the number of years.
This.
I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly.
I no more think of myself as being old than I am than fly. What does he mean by that? I do not understand the expression. No, it was incoherent. I understand the inflection and the point he's trying to make. I'm not old, but he did not clearly express that. I no more think of myself as old than fly. Wait, he's saying he doesn't fly? Is that his point?
Trouble even saying to myself my own head the number of years.
And what is this supposed to mean? I have one more time.
I have trouble even saying to myself my own head the number of years.
I have trouble even saying the number of, in my head, the number of years of what? The number of years of what? That's an incomplete sentence.
I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly.
I no more think of myself as being old as I am than fly. Like, I get it. He's saying, I don't think of myself as old as I am. I don't fly. So I don't think of... Bro, you're very old. You're very, very old. So this is what I think. I think the White House has gone rogue. I do. Because we saw it under Trump. We saw the executive, or maybe I should say the executive branch. We see it with the FBI doing whatever they want. White House spokespeople rejecting the statements from the president. It is clear to say that the executive branch is dysfunctional. I think it's fair to say that the legislative branch is completely dysfunctional, has been for a long time. And the only branch that's probably functioning is the judicial branch. But even that's got the leaks going on. It is dysfunction. It is decay. And this is what you have. It's remarkable. People disapprove of me because they're psychologically unable to be happy. Okay, let's hear it.
Your approval rating in the country is well below 50%. And I wonder why you think that is.
This is a really difficult time. We're at an inflection point in the history of this country. We're going to make decisions, and we're making decisions now that are going to determine what we're going to look like the next 10 years from now. I think you'd agree that the impact on the psyche of the American people as a consequence of the pandemic is profound. Think of how that has changed everything. People's attitudes about themselves, their families, about the state of the nation, about the state of their communities. And so there's a lot of uncertainty out there, a great deal of uncertainty.
So that's it. The pandemic has, hurt people. And so there's, they're just angry. They're angry. Yeah. Let me show you why people are angry, sir. From the Washington Times, Biden accused of pressuring FBI to fabricate extremist and white supremacist cases. Rank-and-file agents are accusing the Biden admin of exaggerating the threat of white supremacists and pressuring agents to cook up domestic terror cases involving racist extremists. Current and former FBI agents told the Washington Times that the perceived white supremacist threat is overblown by the administration. They said top bureau officials are pressuring FBI agents to create domestic terror cases and tag people as white supremacists to meet internal metrics. Broken? Rogue. It's the executive branch. I say the White House because they keep changing what the policy setter himself is saying. I think we got to say it. Our government is fractured. Look, the legislative branch is broken. It is. Everybody knows it is. Bills aren't being voted on anymore. Marjorie Taylor Greene mentioned how they just have like 4 guys from the Democrats and Republicans just sitting there like drooling. And then some random person says like this bill and they go, meh. Okay, it's through. Fine, whatever. Look at omnibus spending bills. They can't get things through. They ram them through. They say it's a budget thing, so we're going to just do that. The judicial branch is doing fairly well, to be honest, but it's become hyper-partisan. You've got rulings that are just clearly, if a Republican, look, you can look at a ruling and be like, that judge is a Republican. That judge is a Democrat. Not always, but typically. And then you have the leak coming out of the Supreme Court, dysfunction. And now you have this. Pure dysfunction in the executive branch. The FBI, the White House, the military. Nobody's listening anymore. Yeah. So people wonder, why do I say civil war? Well, it's going to be something. You take a look at Syria and there were like 12 different factions. Ultimately, they start like coming together and breaking apart and things like that. And you end up with bigger parent factions fighting the government. In the United States, with the branches of government in pure dysfunction, I can't imagine that there won't be pure chaos. Look, we're humans. Humans are fallible. The systems that we build and abide by are fallible. And I think there's a lot of young people in this country that seem to think that the law is immovable. I hear people say things like this to me all the time. You can't do that because of this or that law. And I laugh. I love it. I love seeing lawsuits, for instance. They're like, whoa, if you're going to get sued and lose all your money. And I'm like, they're not going to pay a penny. The Alex Jones thing. They're like, whoa, Alex Jones is going to pay 45 million, 60 million, 70, whatever the number. And I'm like, he's not giving them a penny, dude. Maybe, probably not. They don't get it. People think if it's written on paper, it must be done. And then sooner or later, people realize that the only laws that actually are impenetrable are the physical laws. That's it. When it comes to science, all we can do is work within the confines of physical laws to manipulate energy better and more efficient ways to make our lives better. It's really all we do is collect free energy and organize it. So we take fossil fuels, you put it into a machine. A bunch of fine working parts, perfectly organized, can give you a very specific outcome. It's rather brilliant. Humans, amazing. But our laws, they're just words. They say you can't do X. Here's an example. West Virginia, you cannot possess, smoke, buy, or sell marijuana. Maryland says you can. The funny thing about the law, federally, marijuana is Schedule 1, one of the worst possible drugs. Let me tell you about Half-Baked with Dave Chappelle. A movie came out, a cult classic, at a time when it was illegal basically everywhere. Yet in the movie, they're all smoking it, knowing it's illegal. Culturally, we all did. Laws are fallible. So now what we see is the institutions we've built, these different branches of government, when people don't care for them, or when people think they have to bend the rules and exploit them for personal gain, then you get decay. So here's what I think. I think the White House has gone rogue. I don't think it's as crazy as people realize, because it's been this way for several years now, especially under Trump. I think the FBI has gone rogue, but they've been rogue for a long time. And I think ultimately what you get is that Joe Biden's clearly a risk to this country because his brain doesn't work. If we have a policy to defend Taiwan, him going out and blurting it out over and over again isn't helping us. It's not like China didn't already know that anyway, I'd imagine. But then the White House steps in and just rejects the words of the president. I suppose because they're desperately trying to cling on to what we're supposed to be doing. The policy is probably not that we won't defend Taiwan. The policy is not to admit that we will. And Biden is. And he's putting us at risk. So the White House is trying to cling to that, but it's busted. All you have now is a White House defying what the president has said 4 times. Something ain't right. Something does not work. And in the end, dysfunction, decay, and then, I don't know, maybe collapse. Or maybe all the corruption will result in someone truly crossing the Rubicon, transforming this country into an empire like we saw with Rome. It's a terrifying prospect. I guess we'll see. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.